Hi everyone, Peter here, Thailand bound. Thanks for joining me on the channel today. If it's your first time here, I talk about all things Thailand, and today I'm going to read out a bunch of viewers' stories, all true stories. Just before we start, I hope the noise of the fan isn't bothering, it doesn't interfere with the video too much. Very, very hot in the UK today. I'm trying to get these done before it gets very hot in the afternoon. Alright, so this first story, it's not necessarily all about Thailand, but it's such a good story I thought I'd read it out anyway, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy these. I've got 5 or 6 stories today. 2 or 3 of them are very, very short, so I thought I'd just pile them in on the back of this one, and I'm not going to waste any time. I'm just going to start right now. So here we go with the first story.
สวัสดีค่ะ
I enlisted in the military in 1966 and volunteered for Vietnam. I had what was called the John Wayne syndrome. I wanted to go to war, fight and be a hero. There is a saying in the military that they never give you what you want. Since I volunteered for Vietnam, they sent me to England. I really enjoyed my time, 3 years there, and travelled the countryside quite a bit. It took me 5 years and 5 volunteer requests before I received orders to go to Vietnam. Whoopee! I got what I asked for. I fell in love with Vietnam, and my first thought as I jumped off the plane in the middle of a rocket attack was what a beautiful country it could be if we were not blown the hell out of it. I learned very quickly being in combat was nothing like the war movies on television, but overall I've had a charmed life. I was blown up by a sapper my first week in Vietnam. Having survived that, I knew I would make it home and never had a fear of death since then. I also ended up being shot, stabbed and bitten by a cobra, so I really do feel invincible. I think having that attitude was to my advantage throughout my life and helped me do a lot of crazy things. Looking back, I think to myself, my God, how could I have been so stupid? Well, you are young and dumb and believe you are invincible. I was no exception. I fought, I won, and I was awarded medals. Again, whoopee. When you are in combat, you never fight for the medals. You fight to survive or you save your buddies. There were no lines of colour in my mind. We all bled red. I ended up doing 24 years in my military career. I was diagnosed as being a diabetic on my last day of active duty. I had been complaining for 2 years. I wasn't feeling right. I would go to the military hospital and they would tell me there was nothing wrong with me. On my last day of active duty, I went into comatose and was rushed to the hospital and diagnosed with diabetes caused from Agent Orange. I ended up being 100% disabled over the years with additional health problems, high blood pressure, kidney failure and heart disease. Even though I am 100% disabled, I still get around well, and travelling the world is my favourite hobby. I was lucky in everything but love. Raised 3 children by myself. Once my youngest was grown and out of the house, I decided to start travelling again and went to Thailand, where I found the love of my life. We have been married for 13 years now. I have been back to Vietnam twice and was amazed there were no hard feelings about the war and how friendly the people are. I look forward to going back again and seeing much more of the country. I have also been to Laos, Philippines, Cambodia, Okinawa, Guam, Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong and China. I make a distinction between Hong Kong and China because the people of Hong Kong do not consider themselves Chinese. I was stationed in the Philippines for 3 years at the base where they held the POWs from the Bataan Death March. I was in Libya 5 months before the US broke off diplomatic relations with them. Very hostile environment and one place I never want to see again. When I went back to Cambodia, they were very unfriendly and I stayed for 1 night and left. So another place I do not care to go back to. In retrospect, I did make the mistake of wearing my Special Forces baseball cap, so maybe that is why they were hostile towards me. I also would like to return to England and take a visit to Wales, Scotland and Ireland. I have also wanted to visit Moscow and see the Red Square. My wife and I want to take a trip to Burma when the pandemic settles down and they end their civil war. How ironic to be called a civil war when I have found war to be anything but civil. I also plan to go to Bali as I want to see the kimono dragons and the culture of Bali. So there you go, guys. That was quite an interesting story. And as I say, it wasn't strictly a Thailand story, but nonetheless, I thought I'd read it out for you anyway. So let's jump straight into our second story today. And this story, as I'm reading it, the words I come out with are the words I'm reading, the way the guy sent it to me, okay? They're not my words, so I'm gonna just kick straight off, and here's the second story. So, hi, you can call me Alex. I'm a black man from the West, but for privacy reasons, I don't want to share what country I'm originally from, in case someone that knows me sees your videos. I'm what you would call a digital nomad, and I am in my early 30s. Anyway, I first arrived in Thailand during this pandemic. This story is about some minor experiences I had during 1 week where I was staying in the Silom area of Bangkok. Before this week, I had just spent over 80,000 baht on getting some crowns on my teeth to make them look better and whiter. 80,000 baht is about 2,000 pounds, maybe 2,200 US dollars. So I was a bit low on funds during this week. I did not know this at the time, but this area is full of male massage parlours and gay bars. So I just laughed and walked away. As you might gather, I'm completely straight. Anyway, at the time I was new to Bangkok and Thailand and did not know anyone. So one night I headed down to get something to eat when I saw a bar with many ladies in it and a male Thai manager standing outside. I told them I just wanted to eat and not drink, but they ushered me in and got me a menu. A bar girl came and sat down with me. The food was from a neighbouring restaurant because this bar was open illegally since it was during the pandemic. They had all the alcohol and money across the street. There was literally nothing there except furniture, a pool table and cups with alcohol. And bar girls, of course. I was not interested in this girl and just wanted my food, but she was very persistent and wanted me to promise to take her out. I did not want to be rude, so I nodded in agreement with her. After I was finished eating, I wanted a toothpick. The girl had disappeared to make a phone call, so I got up, went outside to ask the guy for a toothpick. The manager immediately wanted me to pay on the spot because he thought I was trying to leave without settling my bill, which of course I wasn't. I paid outside and just left because I was already outside and I totally forgot about the girl. Anyway, I paid there outside and just left because I was already outside and totally forgot about the girl that was thinking I would take her with me. Also, I was a bit perplexed by the manager's behaviour, so I just left. A couple of days later, I came back, and this time the manager was nicer to me, but he was still very much on edge because he was scared of the police turning up or maybe something else. I need to add that I drink alcohol, but I only drink a few times a week, and I try to keep it down to a maximum of 2 because I'm scared of becoming an alcoholic, which is very easy to become in Thailand. For some reason, I never went to this bar on the nights that I was drinking. The days that I wanted to drink during this time in Bangkok, I always headed to a bar in Nana. This bar was close to my hotel, so I only went there in the evenings when I was lonely and not drinking and just wanted to socialise. As I said, I did not actually intend to leave her behind that night. It was just the situation that made me leave the bar. Another girl came up to me and started playing Connect 4 with me. After only a few minutes, she asks for a ladies' drink. I say no. This is what I don't like about places like this. It's only about the money. She immediately stands up and leaves. I paid for my soda and I left. I regret saying this, to be honest, because this is a mistake. I should have just said later or something. Remember, as I said previously, this is during the pandemic. Almost everything is closed and I don't know anyone in the city. This bar is only one of 3 bars in the whole city of Bangkok that I know where it is open at the time, even though all the bars were ordered to stay shut. The third time I came in there were a lot more girls and customers. I could see the girls immediately started whispering to each other when I arrived, since I had not taken 2 of the girls on 2 separate nights, and since this bar was in a gay area, they thought I was gay. I could see it by the way they were looking at me. Most of the girls in this bar were certainly not the A team when it came to looks, and many would not even have made the B team, but they were okay to hang out with and better than sitting in my hotel room alone. This time I decided to play pool with a girl. The male bar manager comes over and tells me it's 40 baht a game to play pool with this girl. Every time I come into this bar, they were constantly trying to make me spend money and trying to force me to buy alcohol. I am not a cheapskate at all, but I don't want to buy alcohol just to please others when I don't want to drink. I just brought a soda every time I was there, or food and a soda. It's not like I was there without a drink. I really regret not going there on the nights that I was drinking to show them that I was not a cheapskate and that I was not gay. If I'd gotten drunk enough, I would have probably bar fined one of the girls too. As I said earlier, they had a lot of customers. there that night, and another girl was sitting with two Thai guys, and she was beckoning the girl I was playing pool with to join them. The one I was playing with was hesitant for a minute, but then the bar manager steps in and takes her cue, and she goes over to the table with the other girl and the two Thai guys. The bar manager tries to take over the pool game because he also thinks I'm gay, since I had not shown any interest in any of the girls on previous occasions. I throw my cue on the table and put 20 baht there instead of the 40. He says it's 40, and I tell him that she did not finish the game with me, so I'm not paying 40 baht. I then just left and never returned. The reason I only gave 20 baht was that it was agreed that she would play pool with me, and they pretty much embarrassed me in front of the whole bar. Out of principle, I'm not paying full price when she leaves mid-game and has a man start playing with me. I made a few mistakes which led to these misunderstandings, and I've learnt from them. Never go into a bar if you don't intend to drink, because then they will think you're a cheapskate. They can't comprehend that a person would go out just for some company and never refuse to buy a lady drink. Just say later and save yourself the trouble if you get on the bad side of the girls. She will poison all of the other girls against you. I managed to make two of them dislike me, so it went south from then on in. And that's pretty much it on that story. Just a couple of thoughts from myself on there. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously the bars, that's what they're there for. They're there to make money. They're not there just to, give out free entertainment. But I kind of agree with this guy up to a point. I've never had a problem going into a bar and ordering a soda, a Coke, or a diet, any kind of soda. I've never had any hostility because I'm not drinking, so I find that a little bit strange. If you went into a bar and just sat there and watched what was going on in stage, then yeah, they have a reason to get upset. But if you're going in there spending money, whether it's a soda or a Carlsberg, it doesn't make any difference. And as I say, I've never had a problem doing that. So let's jump into our third story today. Let's not waste any time because it is starting to get very hot in here. And as I say, I hope the noise of the fan there isn't interfering too much. Okay, so this is a typical kind of car crash, bar girl, it all goes wrong story, but it's enjoyable. So our third story. This was my second trip to Thailand. I wanted to see Chiang Mai, which I missed during my first trip. So I took a flight up there. On my first night out in Chiang Mai, I decided to go and check out some of the local bars. I went and had some beers in the bar area around Zoe and Yellow Bar. After they closed, I didn't know where I could go next or whether to just go back to my hotel. I overheard people talking about going to a club called Spicy, so I thought I might as well go there as I didn't know any other place. I was stood waiting in the taxi and tuk-tuk area, waiting to go to my next destination, when a pretty local lady approached me and started chatting to me, asking where am I from and where was I going next. I told her I wasn't sure where I should go next and that I had overheard people talking about Club Spicy. She said she knew a good bar where her friend worked and asked if I wanted to go there with her. I agreed and we jumped in a tuk-tuk which drove for a while and dropped us off in an area I wasn't familiar with. We went inside the bar and sat down. A girl came over who confirmed she was her friend and that she worked there and asked if we wanted a drink. I asked for a menu which she brought over and I noticed the drinks were pretty expensive. So I ordered 2 beers which were probably the cheapest thing on the menu. The bar looked like a normal bar, but we were the only customers, but I thought it might just be quiet for some reason. Our beers came and the waitress asked if we would like to rent a karaoke room for I think it was 2,000 baht for 20 minutes. That seems quite expensive, doesn't it? Which I didn't want to pay for, so I said no thanks. A couple of minutes later, she came over and said, it's okay, you can have the karaoke room for free, which was tempting because I do like a bit of karaoke, so I agreed. I went into the karaoke room on the second floor with the girl and her waitress friend. I sung a bit on the karaoke and the girl I was with asked if I should get another beer and I agreed. She ordered in Thai and the barman came in with a crate of beer and put them in the corner. The waitress asked if her friend could also join us and I said yes, and the girl came in and sat in the corner. I tried to speak to her and get her to do a bit of karaoke, but she refused and didn't speak a word of English, so I didn't see the point of her being there. She just sat in the corner and I said nothing. The girl I went in with asked if the others could have a beer and I agreed. She then asked if I was hungry and I said a little bit, yes. She then ordered again in Thai and not English. At this point, I needed to go to the toilet. While in the toilet, I sensed something wasn't quite right and I was thinking about a way out. But I'd heard stories of people getting beaten up for not paying bar bills in Thailand. I was thinking about how I could just get out of that place, but for now, I went back into the karaoke room. When I got back into the room, the table was full of food. It was like a banquet. They kept asking me to eat the food, but I didn't want to. I stopped singing at this point and my mood changed and I went quiet. The girl I was with then asked if I wanted the bill and I said yes, and she said she would go downstairs to the bar to get it, leaving all the food that she had ordered. 2 minutes later, 3 men came into the room holding the bill, but the girl wasn't with them. They shut the door behind them and handed me the bill. Someone had just written 12,000 baht on the top of the receipt, which was not itemized. I then laughed and said, "Is this a joke?" To which there was no reply. 12,000 baht for a few beers and food I didn't eat. And what about the 20 minutes of free karaoke? I don't know how much a few beers and food would normally cost in a typical bar in Thailand, so I was not happy. I then proceeded to argue with them about the price and asked them to call the police. I didn't want to pay their made-up bill. They refused to call the police and I didn't know where I was, so I couldn't really call them myself. They told me that I had to pay for the girl who the waitress asked to come into the room and who didn't speak or move the whole time, and also pay for the room, which I was told was for free. Another man then came into the room, so there were now 4 men and the waitress. At this point, I had worked out that this was all a scam and that the girl I met was working for them to bring vulnerable tourists to the bar and rack up the bill. This made me more adamant about not paying the 12,000 baht. I tried to walk out of the room, but they were blocking my way and I didn't want to give them an excuse to beat me up. At one point, I was arguing with a manager and he slapped me across the face, which really got my adrenaline going. I was sat in the corner and one of the men proceeded to hold my arms while another was going through my pockets. I was pushing his hands away and trying to block my pockets, but I was wary about not starting a physical confrontation with them, as I was in a foreign country and there were more of them and I didn't want to give them an excuse to assault me. They pulled out my wallet, hotel key and phone. One of them opened my wallet, opened the cash compartment and pulled out all the cash in there. There was only 100 baht. To his astonishment, and he looked in shock at his boss, which I laughed at because I thought the game was over for them. It wasn't. He took my debit and credit cards down to the bar with him. He came back up 2 minutes later, demanding my PIN code for my cards. "Tell me your PIN codes." I refused, as anyone would, and told them they could beat me up if they wanted to, but there's no way I was going to give them my PIN numbers. The manager then went back to negotiating with me. I got him down to 3,500 baht, which is still a lot for what I had, especially when they told me that the room was for free. I didn't really want to give them anything because they tried to scam me and they ruined my day, but they were threatening to lock me in the room until I paid. I was trying to call their bluff and told them to lock the door then and leave. Eventually I agreed to pay 3,500 baht just to get out of there. They took me downstairs and they had closed all the shutters on the bar, so there was no chance of escape. I paid with my Monzo debit card thinking I could reverse the charge in the banking app. They then let me out of the bar and there was a tuk-tuk driver waiting for me and maybe also working for them. I took a photo of the outside of the bar and tried to call the police, but they saw me, came out and threatened me, so I got in the tuk-tuk and left. On the way, the driver told me that he had picked up many other people who had also been scammed there. He dropped me off at the hotel. It was at this point I realised what they hadn't given me back. They hadn't given me back my room key, which also had the name of the hotel and my room number on it, so I was panicking that they could get into my room and rob me. I pleaded with the reception to change my room, but they said they couldn't until the next day. I then had to go to my room with this worry. I went on my Monzo banking app and reversed the payment. I woke up the next day and I went to the tourist police to give a statement. I told them of the scam and they said they had many reports about this bar. They asked if I wanted them to get my money back and I said no, as I thought I had already got it back by reversing the charge. They sent an officer out to the bar to give them a warning. To be honest, I was disappointed that all they got was a warning and that many people had filed similar reports, but the bar was allowed to carry on operating. I left the police station and heard another story from the taxi driver about a Thai man being scammed in there for even more money than I was. I researched the karaoke bar and there is news articles about people's getting robbed. One Korean guy for 160,000 baht and many negative Google reviews about being drugged and hit and knocked unconscious, then robbed. so my ordeal didn't sound that bad compared to some other people's. The next day I checked my bank and they had reversed the reversal and took the money back. This was a little lesson for me. I should have paid on my credit card, because when you pay on credit card, you are in charge of the payment and can reverse it if fraudulent or damaged goods, etc., as opposed to a debit card where they have control of the payment and you have to try to claim it back from their bank. Another strange thing was that the police station refused to give me a copy of my statement on the day, saying that it was really long process to give me a copy of it. So I didn't really have any evidence of a police report to send to my bank. After this entire ordeal in Chiang Mai, it ruined my trip and I left immediately for another location in Thailand. I still think Thailand is a fantastic place, and most Thai people I have met have been kind and lovely people. I just bumped into a bad bunch in Chiang Mai. The karaoke bar was called Forever Karaoke when I went there, but they keep changing the name because of their bad reputation, and maybe because it keeps getting closed down. It has been Star Karaoke and it is now Valentine's Club and Karaoke. You can Google them and read the stories and reviews. Someone has started a Facebook page to warn people about Valentine's Club and Karaoke, and someone has made a video review on YouTube about their terrible experience there. I definitely would avoid that place if I was you. Yeah, I mean, he didn't get scammed, did he? He got absolutely robbed. I mean, they held his hands and went through his pockets. There's nothing, unfortunately, as a foreigner in that situation. I know this sounds bad, but there's nothing really you can do. He did the right thing. He went to the tourist police. I doubt they did anything about it. They probably know about it. They probably said they went and gave them a warning, but I doubt it. This seems to happen in these kind of places, karaoke bars that are outside of the mainstream tourist areas. So, you know, I wouldn't let anybody take me to a bar that they suggested. If I was going out in Bangkok, I choose the place, unless I'm going out with somebody like Simon or another friend and they say, you know, let's check out this new bar, then they've been there before, then I would go. But, you know, a random Thai person on the street asking me to go to some karaoke in the middle of nowhere, no, I wouldn't do it. Okay guys, we're 3 stories in, and believe it or not, we've got 3 more stories to go, but these are real short. And I just thought I'd tag them onto the end of this upload just to sort of clear them out, as it were. All right, let's get straight into this 4th story. I am a well-kept Australian woman in her 60s. I spent 2019 and 2020 traveling around Southeast Asia. I visited 2 old male friends from my hometown. All our kids had gone to school together while I was in Thailand. They both lived with Thai women who were beautiful and very friendly with me. Come Saturday afternoon, down at the bar with my friends, drinking bourbon and telling jokes, we were reminiscing and laughing, and 4 of their friends turned up. After a few hours or so of catching up, I noticed the female partners of my friends and their friends slowly turning up, sitting on their partner's knee, popping a baby in their lap or telling them to come home. These lovely ladies thought perhaps I was about to run off with one of their husbands. I wish I could have told these lovely ladies I had no interest, nor would I. We all laughed at that, actually. Later, I stayed in Pattaya for a few weeks. I was interested in its colourful reputation and history of how it became what it is, and I wanted to see it for myself. I booked a nice hotel cabin in a complex with a pool and an Indian restaurant. On arrival, it reminded me of a holiday park in Australia. After unpacking, I went to the pool area for a swim. No one was around. There was a stage at one end of the pool which was full of coloured balls. I imagine kids' birthday parties being held there, as a restaurant was attached to the pool. I hadn't gone out to explore a 7-Eleven, so that evening I thought I'd try the Indian restaurant at the pool. As I walked closer, the music was getting louder. I walked to the server and ordered a meal. I hadn't turned around at this stage. After paying, I walked to a table, sat down and faced the swimming pool. I was so embarrassed. It was full of men, some naked and topless Thai girls. Thankfully, everyone was very busy splashing around and didn't notice when my meal arrived. I ate it very quickly and I scampered out. Needless to say, I never went back for a meal or a swim. The BART buses saw me as an easy target and ripped me off all the time. It's a bit harder as an older woman arguing with a driver, but it happened everywhere I went. Okay, let's jump straight into number 5. My story goes back a few years ago when I was on one of my Thailand trips. One night about 11 p.m. or so, while sitting in one of the bars on Bangla Road, Phuket, near the Beach Road intersection, I was just watching the world go by and having a few cold beers. So here I was enjoying my solitude and cold beer when three guys come into the bar. They took a table near the window but were very loud. Sometimes they would catcall to some of the girls who ignore them as they seemed a little drunk. One of the guys, who was quite big, was getting a bit annoyed at being ignored. Even the bar girls could tell there was trouble brewing. Eventually and thankfully the time came when they were getting ready to leave. The bill was presented and the big guy started to argue. His friends just left him there alone and didn't even try to calm him down or drag him out of there. The bar girl was explaining the bill. The fact that eluded him was that the bar had run out of what they were drinking. From memory, I think it was Chang. So because of this, they drank Leo beer instead. He was adamant and refused to pay for the Leos. So the bar girl told this guy, "This is your bill, you have to pay it or I will call the police." Now this was a little Thai lady about 5 foot tall and maybe 45 kilos. A tiny girl arguing with this very large guy. Unfortunately, the drink got to him and he backslapped this little lady and she went flying. So I, in brackets, an ex-cop, react. As I walk over to confront this guy, he is yelling at this girl on the floor. The manager is now on the phone calling the police. This guy has 25 plus years, 30 kilos and 3 inches on me. So seeing my disadvantage in the upcoming skirmish, I decided on just restraining him. As he wasn't facing me, I jumped on his back and threw my right arm around his neck for a better hold. Now he really got angry and starts trying to flick me off. He crashes into the bar and rams me into the wall and tries to flick me off again. No good, as I now have my legs wrapped around his body and my left arm supporting my right. He starts having trouble breathing and begins to pass out. Down he goes onto the floor with me on his back. Now it must be said that the police in Patong are very quick at getting to wherever they want to go, but they were at that bar in record time. I got whacked from behind by a couple of batons. I immediately turned and threw up my hands so I didn't get beaten by mistake. The manager comes forward, starts yelling and pointing at the idiot on the floor. The police are questioning her about the incident. One of the policemen makes me take a seat and was guarding me so that I could not run off. The head guy comes over and now questions me. I explained what I saw and told them that I was afraid he may further assault the serving girl, so I jumped in and stopped him. I gave my statement and he tells me to come to the station tomorrow afternoon to give a full statement. He gives me his card and to make sure I turn up, he takes my passport, which I had on me at the time. By this time, it's about closing time and the police arrest this idiot and take him away. The manager gives me a drink. I've injured my shoulder and was rubbing it when this little lady called Apple, who was now on her feet, gives me a massage. I go to leave and pay my bill, but the manager says, "No, you help go," and she gives me another free drink and says, "Stay and eat with us." So I stay for another hour, eating and drinking with them. Apple is very happy I helped her. Her face is red, swollen, and she has a bit of blood from her nose and lips. The police already took photos, but she wanted more. Anyway, the next afternoon I went by the police station to give my official statement and get my passport back. The lieutenant took my statement and photo, then had me identify the guy. So I look at this guy from the night before and I think to myself, I didn't do that damage to him. He had obviously taken a beating. Obviously the Thai police took offence at this large guy hitting such a little girl. I saw his photo attached to the file, no damage there. His broken nose and black eye would be easy to explain. The lieutenant thanked me for my help and apologised for the baton across my back. I just said, "It's okay, I'm just happy to help." 2 evenings later, I went back to the bar. Apple looked better and she told me that the police charged the guy and she received 8,000 baht for her injuries. She also said he'd get big fine, and I know that he was not leaving the police station until the fine was paid. Apple brought me a few drinks and we hooked up for a few days. She was very boisterous and frequent in the bedroom. She was extremely nice, caring and thankful for my help. So for helping, I got whacked with batons from the police, had my passport taken, received some free food and a few beers. However, I still had to pay full price for the girlfriend experience with Apple, if you get my drift. Right, so no sympathy for the guy who hit the Thai girl. I mean, what an idiot. And he, you know, to call the guy an idiot, he's dead right. That's the words I would use as well. I mean, to be drunk and loud is one thing, but to actually physically assault this Thai girl, as I say, I haven't got any sympathy for him. Everything he got, in my eyes, he deserved. My friend and I have been to Thailand many times and we always have a good time. We both live in Sydney and I look forward to going over whenever we can. I'm in my 50s and my friend is in his 60s. This particular time we were eager to get going to have a few beers at Sydney Airport and a few on the aircraft. My friend had booked a good taxi to take us to Hua Hin from Bangkok Airport. We get to Hua Hin about 8:30 p.m. We book into our hotel and we have booked 2 separate rooms. I tell my friend that I'm going to take a shower and get changed and I will meet him downstairs in the bar. I've been playing pool with some of the girls in the bar and on my third beer, still no sign of my friend. He eventually turns up and he's still wearing jeans and a long sleeve shirt. I say to him, "What are you playing at?" He tells me when he got to his room, he opened his suitcase and realised the contents of the case wasn't his. He'd picked up the wrong bag at Bangkok Airport. He'd been trying to get the hotel receptionist to ring the airline to explain the confusion. They said he would have to ring tomorrow during office hours 9 to 5. He explained to the girls in the bar what had happened. "Not a problem," one of the girls said. "Give me some money, I will go to the market and buy you some clothes." It didn't take long and she was back with a new wardrobe for my friend. We were set now and ready to hit the town. We went from bar to bar and I think we ended up about 3 a.m. at the Hilton, both with a new girlfriend. Our current 3 a.m. was really 6 a.m. with the time difference in Sydney. I didn't wake up until 4 p.m. the next day. My friend was even later and missed ringing the airline about his suitcase. But what a night. The third day my friend got in touch with the airline. They taxied his suitcase down to the hotel at about 7 p.m. and picked up the other suitcase and took it back. We often wonder who that case belonged to and what they did for 3 days. We can't wait for our next trip to Thailand and hope everything that is going on currently will end sooner than later. All the best, Alistair. Yeah, you and me both, Alistair. And that was our final story. So quite a long one today. I thought I'd squeeze them all in. If you have sent me a story, don't be listening to these and thinking, why isn't he reading out my story? Because I have got some back. I've got quite a few now. More stories are always welcome. But if you've sent me a story and I've written to you and said, great story, I will tell it. I will 100% tell it. You just got to be patient. Right, guys, that's it with the stories for 2 weeks. Simon and I will be with you on Wednesday for a live stream. There's no live stream with myself tonight. That'll be the following Saturday. So until then, thanks very much for all the guys who sent in these stories and the lady. First time we've had a story from a lady. And I'll catch you with more stories in 2 weeks' time.